everybody. I'm gonna wait a couple seconds before I start, let people come on. Hopefully my lamp doesn't fail me. Just gonna share. Hey Chad! Thank you so much, Chad, for sending me all that information. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get that thing started. So just give me a couple seconds. I don't know why I did not. Go ahead and share this and invite other people to come on. I'll start in just a second. I know everybody was excited to see that I was doing lives again. And I have my little friend over here, Louie, with me, keeping me company. How's everybody doing tonight? Hi, Sandy. So tonight, I'm going to start off a little differently than I normally do, because normally my lives, hi Becky Sue, normally in my lives, I don't really introduce myself. So I felt like since I was getting back into this and possibly having new people joining me. Oh, isn't he? He's so fluffy. He's bad though. Oh my gosh, he's so bad. I really wanted to do this live outside because it was so nice, but we're getting ready to get a storm. Unless it goes completely around us, which always seems to happen. But like I was saying, I'm going to try to do this a little differently. I'm just going to try to share this video on my own wall so that some of the people that I'm friends with, yeah, the spring, isn't it great today? I went to Gettysburg today. I have to go every single week to drop off my husband's paperwork. He actually is a truck driver, so his job is out of Gettysburg, and I have to take his paperwork up there to where his job is out of. And I got to stop into places like Saxbridge today and Devil's Den. So, you know, it's just absolutely gorgeous. It was like 78 degrees when I was up there. Fantastic. For those of you who don't know, I know some of you that are going to watch this later on, I'll try to answer any questions that come up now and then later on as I can. But bear with me for a second here. Trying to share this on my timeline. My computer is so slow. So slow. Okay. There we go. All right. Still 81. I have no idea what the temperature is here. It just started raining, so you're probably going to hear that in a little bit. But anyways, today I really wanted to start this live a little differently. I have not done a live for several months, and I'm going to get into why I haven't in just a second. But I figured I'd kind of introduce myself because some of you people probably have no idea who I am. My name is Rebecca Boyer. I am considered a co-founder of Antietam Paranormal Society, but I really am the engine of the group. I pretty much do everything. I do historical research. I am the case manager. I do the setup of all the investigations. I create our investigation plans. I generate our reports and everything when we're finished with investigations. So I kind of can do it all, and that's one of the things that I love, to make sure that any investigator that comes into our group, joins as a member, or just even interacts with us, leaves with a little bit more of a well-rounded ability to be a paranormal investigator. I think paranormal investigators should be able to do it all. You should be able to do research. You should know technical stuff. You should be well-read in theories, know science, you know, common science that correlates to what we do. Thebomb.com. I try. I just, you know, over the years, being the person that does all this stuff, you kind of have to learn everything on your own. I learned how to do websites. I learned how to, I learned quantum physics. Who wants to learn quantum physics? I mean, seriously. Hey, Ken! So, you know, really, to me, a paranormal investigator is well-rounded and knows all this stuff. But again, I'm the co-founder of Antietam Paranormal Society. I currently have been married for almost 20 years to Jeremy, who is the founder of the group. Hey Ray, hey Sue. And let's see. So we have 3 children. Our oldest is 18, and I'll probably get a little choked up when I talk about this. One of the reasons why I haven't done lives is because my son was actually at basic training for the Air Force for 8.5 weeks, and I'll tell you what, it stressed me out. I was a young mom. I had my oldest when I was 19, and you know, sending your kid off for the first time is very, very stressful, especially not being able to hear from him for that long period of time. So he has graduated from basic training, and he's currently stationed in Texas for his technical training. So very exciting. I'm very proud of my son for, you know, accomplishing what he has in the past couple of months. So now that I've gotten him squared away and I know he's safe and he's happy, I feel like I can get back to what I'm supposed to be doing. Our second child is Cody. He's 15. He's ready to get his learner's permit. Crazy kid. And then our youngest, Anna, she is a future paranormal investigator herself. She loves doing this stuff. She's 12. You'll see her periodically on lives and even in pictures and stuff because she goes on events with us, and I have no problem with that as long as she's not scared. But that's basically it. You know, Jeremy and I run this group, and we have for 11 years. And I kind of wanted to go into a little bit about what Antietam Paranormal Society is about, because you know, we can share all kinds. Yes, Becky Sue, definitely. Hashtag proud Air Force mom. I have Air Force stuff everywhere. I even have a hat. But hey Shane, Antietam Paranormal Society, we started, there was me and my husband and one of our best friends. We were literally, you know, we watched Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and things like that, and we were just so excited. I run Jeremy. Not really. I don't think anybody can run Jeremy. He is a breed of his own. But we created Antietam Paranormal Society initially just as 3 friends to go out and experience the paranormal. You know, it was never more than that. When we had first started, it was never like we had big ideas about what it could be. Over time, we just decided we'd start taking members, and I think our goals and what we really wanted to be about, hey John, kind of changed. And I would have to say our group is definitely, what I see for it is education. Educating those who join us, hey Michael, educating those who come across us and, you know, just want information. I mean, having 11 years of experience, and like I told some people today, I've investigated probably over 300 times in the 11 years I've been doing this. And that just makes me tired thinking about it. But it's also exciting when I go back through these investigations. Over time, you forget them. You forget the things you experience. You forget all the really cool things that you learned. And I don't just mean, you know, paranormal things. Learning the things that actually aren't paranormal. Learning how to recreate or debunk things. I mean, there's so much stuff that I've learned through the years, and I feel like if any of you that come across this video and you're watching right now and you want to know, add me on Facebook, ask me questions. I don't really have an outlet right now other than this to really share the information, and I feel like sometimes that trying to share the stuff that I do know, not everybody's really interested, and it doesn't really get to too many people. So I can share it here on the page, but a lot of times it's lost in the Facebook shuffle. So if you ever have questions, message me. I will try to answer as best as I can and give you information. The only thing I really don't do is, people ask me all the time, you know, hey, can you tell me all the places you've investigated? Because I want to go there. You got to do your own homework. I've had to do, what is he doing? Oh, I'm sorry. He's licking himself. Well, you got entertainment if I'm not entertaining enough. Anyways, he's giving himself a bath. God, he's a hot mess. Again, his name is Louie. He's my little mascot over here. Anyways, I really can't help other people get locations. It's not, to me, I've had to do a lot of work and a lot of, board meetings and, right, Ken? Kitty porn. I've had to, meet with representatives. I've had to write letters. We've had to all have background checks with certain places that we've gone to. So, there are things that we can't help you with that. But if it's ever anything about, how do I do the investigation? How should I set up cameras? What kind of cameras should I get? We are always willing to help with that. Hey, Desiree. Some of my favorite people are on here tonight. It's really exciting. I love seeing them all joining me. But again, Antietam Paranormal Society really is, it's about education. I don't really feel like, a lot of people are out there like, if you're not helping people, then you're not really in it for the right reasons. I don't necessarily believe that every paranormal group has to be out there doing private residences, because I will share definitely that they're the hardest things to do. You get calls at 3 a.m., you have lots of stuff that you have to focus on, and if you've got a family, you can't really devote the time. So right now we don't do private residences unless they have references within our group. So that's kind of, hey Cindy, that's kind of what we do. We educate. Our events that we do are specifically to raise funds for historic locations. So, one of our missions is to help preserve history. And I love history. I never thought that I would be a history nerd, but once I got into this, I love, and as you hear some of my experiences and the locations that I've been to, you'll really probably get that from what I'm saying. But anyways, I'm going to move on to the meat and potatoes of what I was going to talk about today. So people always ask me about the places that I've been, experiences, and I find it funny that, anybody even wants to know about these things, because it's like everybody has experiences, and a lot of other people have better experiences than I do, but they just like to hear what other groups and other people have had happen to them over the years. So I'm going to start way back in 2008. One of the first places that we ever went to, and this was the original 3, Jeremy and I and Ryan made the trek to West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville, West Virginia. And the building is incredible. I would have to say any big building like that that has been abandoned or, shut down in that way, it's a massive building. The architecture is incredible. And, you can just feel when you walk in these buildings, just the magnitude of the things that went on, the feelings of the people that were there. And West Virginia Penitentiary is just like that. It's dark. I tell you what, when you're in maximum security and it's dark outside, it is so dark you can't even see your hand in front of your face. Hey, Dawn. So, these places, to me, it's just cool just being there. It doesn't necessarily have to have a paranormal aspect to me. I just like being in old buildings. But West Virginia Penitentiary is dark. It's definitely has that old building smell to it. It's really cool when you go in all the different cells, because they all have writing on the walls, and well, you should go back for one of those, even if it's just a ghost hunt, Desiree. I definitely feel everybody should experience one of these things, but it's kind of hard to, I don't know, some people have great experiences there, some people don't. We've been there twice, and we had great experiences the first time. Second time, not so much. We actually encountered people making out, sleeping, so it was a little awkward. But the first time we went, I'd say it was a great experience, because we met up with a bunch of groups that had been around for a while. And, meeting up with these teams for public ghost hunts like this, it's just so exciting, because this was our first time really doing it. So, the only experiences that we had had up to this point was watching TV. So meeting people in person that had already been doing, thanks Dawn, I straightened it before I did this, and it's thundering, very spooky. Anyways, so, we met up with this team. They are no longer together. I think their name was Romulus Paranormal. I want to say they were out of, Michigan. What's up, babe? Anna's scared of the thunder. Anyways, so we were there, and at this point, I was afraid of the dark. So rewind to Becky 2008. I was afraid of the dark. Everything about this kind of freaked me out. You know, I was along for the ride. I'd had experiences, but nothing had prepared me for being in a really old building, and the boys hearing footsteps running away from us, and them running from me, and me being by myself without a flashlight. I tell you what, I'm usually not without a flashlight anymore, but now I can walk around in the dark. It doesn't bother me as much. But back then, I literally just closed my eyes and stood still for a very long period of time. So at West Virginia Penitentiary, we heard footsteps in the maximum security. At one point in time, we all were standing around and we said the Lord's Prayer. And we got some EVPs. If you ever want to hear those, you can go to our YouTube channel. They're all on there. When we said the Lord's Prayer, towards the end, we caught a voice of a man saying, "Jesus doesn't want you," which was very interesting. At one point, I don't know what that was. At one point, we were in the infirmary area of the penitentiary, and they had said during the tour that an inmate had been in one of these like seclusion style cells, and he'd been rubbing his private parts on, hey Howie, on the drain in the cell. And you know, when we sat down, just the three of us, to do a session, you know, we're asking like, why would you do that? Well, we did get a male voice that said, rip them off. So we don't know if he was talking about his giggleberries or not, but it was very interesting. We asked this question and we get that. Hey, Dwayne. Anybody joining me? I'm just talking about West Virginia Penitentiary right now. One of our first places that we ever went. We went in 2008 and I believe 2010. I don't have those dates written here. I just literally made notes of the locations and some of the things that I experienced. If you have any questions, feel free to put them up in the comments and I will try to answer them as best as I can. How are you, Howie? What? She's really scared of the thunder. Alright, so I'm going to move on. Again, if you have questions about that location, just throw them up there and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Anybody who knows me knows that this location has a special place in my heart. We volunteered there for 8 years as guides. It was 7 or 8 years. We did spotting for a celebrity event. We did ghost hunts in the building and in the, you know, out buildings like the medical building, the geriatrics, and the forensics buildings. I pretty much know the main building now, like the back of my hands. You know, some people go there and they're like, oh my gosh, how does anybody remember how to get around this place? It is difficult right at first, but you get used to it. Trans-Allegheny was a lunatic asylum. It's not what it was called when it was closed down. It was closed in the 90s. It was called Weston State Hospital. Every time I've been there, I have had an experience. It's one of those locations that I always tell newbies, like, if you want to go someplace and learn something, go to Trans-Allegheny. You will always have an experience, big or small. I mean, sometimes you go and it's just a little thing, but sometimes you go and it's a big thing, like a door closing by itself or hearing screaming when there's no one but you guys in the building. Our experiences range everything. I mean, we've had negative entities there. Footsteps, screaming, doors closing. We've had EVPs and, you know, across the whole spectrum. Little girls, kids, adults, males, females, singing. We've had, let's see here. The first time we went to Trans-Allegheny, we just did one of the the public ghost hunts. And we were walking down, which it's not there anymore, so anybody has gone recently. There used to be like classroom style rooms down in the older section of the building. And we were walking with our guide and she stopped to make sure that everybody caught up with the group. And just as she stopped and everybody else is kind of following up, it was, you know, we were like, oh, we're ready, you know, we're standing right there listening and waiting for her to start talking again. Before she said anything, we heard something say something in between us. And Ryan, who was one of our original founders, you know, he's standing there and he's like, wait, did anybody else hear that? So we re-recorded the whole tour. And when listening back, it was a little girl, and she said, don't go. Because, you know, we were obviously moving on to the next spot. We were just waiting for the guide to have everybody catch up with us. Oh, I love that, Hallie. Selma Mansion. I've always wanted to go there, and I hear, like, Chuck Sanders talk about it all the time. I'd love to go there. Hey, Heather. But there was a moment at Trans-Allegheny. This was, I don't even remember what year it was. Honestly, they all blend together after a while. I'd have to look at my notes, but we were just wandering through. It was during a private ghost hunt that we had. It was just our team in the building, and 3 of us had walked into one of the wards, and slowly walking down the hallway, all the doors were open completely up against the walls. Hey, Kelly. And I mean, you go in those wards and you never know how people are going to leave the doors. They could be closed, they could be open. It's kind of freaky though when you walk through there and all the doors are open, because you feel like there are people standing in every room staring at you. And, you know, in some instances they are. But hey, Tony. We walked down this hallway, and just about halfway down the hallway there was a door that was opened towards us. And it was, again, flush against the wall. And just as we get to it, the door slowly closes. And it didn't slam. It didn't close fast. It was very slow. And the plunger for the door just bumped up against the door jamb. And I'd have to say, out of all the experiences I've had, that one just was the most incredible. Seeing a door close by itself. There was nobody else in that hallway with us. And there were 3 of us that clearly saw this happen. You really can't, you know, how do you explain something like that? And telling other people, a lot of times they don't even, like, it's like, oh, they're just lying about it. I'm 100%, this was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. I've seen spoons fly up out of my crock in my kitchen and land on the counter. I've seen shadow figures. I've seen full-bodied apparitions. But actually seeing a door, a physical object like this, move was incredible. Hey, Eric. So Trans-Allegheny, we're going back next month. I can't wait. We haven't been there for a while, and this is maybe one of our last visits that we do. We really want to expand and kind of go to other places. I really want to check out St. Albans and Old South Pittsburgh, places like that. So we're going to kind of try to expand our horizons, but we really wanted our team to experience this location because of it. It's, you know, it's important to us and just how big it is, the architecture, all the paranormal experiences people have in it. It's just one of those places that you just have to go at one point in time. But going back to some of the spirits that are there, the first time we went, we encountered a little girl constantly. I don't know if this was Lily. We did, obviously, because it was one of the stories, we did obviously try to connect with her, but throughout the entire night, we captured EVPs of her saying things to us. She said God at one point. She had said a couple of other things to us. She sighed. Those are all, again, on our YouTube channel if you want to go check those out. It's a great place. So if you haven't been there, you need to go. Definitely. And again, if you have any questions about any of these locations, just feel free to post them up there in the comment section. Hey, Mary. One of the last things. Now, a lot of people don't like the flashlight method. And yes, it does. It's very flawed. And we don't use it very often anymore. To me, it's like they play around with it too much, or it just kind of goes off, false positives. So I don't use it as much as I used to. But I will say, 100%, we had flashlights all the way down Ward R, I believe, R or T, at Trans-Allegheny. And we had probably 10 flashlights, all of different colors. Purple, silver, camouflage, black, pink, red, you name it, we had a color, and they were all mag lights, and they were lined up down the hall, and each one was staggered. One was one way, one was the other, you know, the lights pointing in different directions. We had heard from other guides that this worked, so during a private, Ken was there actually that night, and a couple of other of us were up there. Now, their hallways, if you've ever seen them, are like extremely long, so it's really hard to get IR. This is a long time ago, so IR back then was really hard to get that whole hallway. So we didn't get it on video, but we would ask what was in the hallway repeatedly to turn on the flashlights in a specific color pattern, and every single time it would do it. So we would tell it, you know, red, purple, silver, blue. It would turn it on in that way, and then we would ask them to turn them off in a certain way. Now, I honestly have never even had another paranormal investigation where I could get things to do that on command. Spirits usually aren't that meticulous. They just don't care, or they just don't feel like doing that. So it was an experience that I really can't refute totally, the flashlight experiment, but it definitely worked for us that night, and it was great. So you ever want to ask me more questions about that, I definitely answer them, but I'm not going to expand on it anymore right now. I'm going to move on to the next location. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them up in the comments. The Hagerstown Antietam KOA. This location is very close here. It's in Williamsport, and we had a member that worked the haunted house, and actually, if Sue is still on here, she works the haunted house. But we investigated the KOA many times, and it is an actual haunted attraction, and it's always set up like a haunted attraction. They don't use it for anything else. It's just an older house, like a kind of like a summer cabin that's along the creek out there. And we went in a few times, and just, I mean, the experiences that we had were crazy. I definitely feel this location has way more spirits than we could ever catalog. And I'm going to probably touch on that in just a second, but we had so many different languages, we could not really say what all of them were. We definitely noticed Native American, bye Ken, Native American, Spanish, obviously English. We get a lot of English speaking people. Did anybody see that meme recently about when anybody dies, they all automatically speak English? I thought that was funny. So Spanish, and it wasn't like Spain kind of Spanish, not like, you know, Mexico or South America kind of Spanish. It was definitely, it was very articulate, and it's just weird to have all these different types of spirits there in a location that really, you know, why are they there? So we kind of felt like maybe they were being pulled from somewhere else. Anybody has any ideas about that, you feel free to post them up. Shadow figures there, everywhere. Insane. Now again, we did this location back when we were still in our infancy, so I would love to investigate it again now that I know a lot more, and I have a lot more protocols with our group so that I could probably do a lot more research. Don't know if that'll happen. There's a lot of cursing. We would use spirit boxes there, and I mean, it was pretty nasty. You know, the A word, the C word. I don't want to say them on here because it's kind of gross. But it constantly cussed at us. Like, it didn't want us there. At one point, we had a spirit box going in a living room, and you can hear all of us in the living room, but we had a recorder in a room that was behind it, and as soon as that spirit box started, you can hear a spirit in this room behind us. Just it was just like it was pacing back and forth, throwing things, moving around. I want to say that's on YouTube as well, so you can check that out on YouTube. It's really interesting how some spirits don't like the spirit box, and that's a question I think everybody should ask when, you know, they turn it on. Are you okay with the sound? Because sometimes they don't like it. definitely kind of check out, make sure that it doesn't hurt them. I mean, I don't know if they feel pain or not, but I definitely feel it's something worth asking. You know, people don't want to disrespect them. Make sure that it's not harmful to them. Michael is the only other one I want to talk about at KOA, sorry. When we investigated it, I want to say it was in October. Hey, Pat. We had separated boys and girls, and this was actually a interview investigation. We had a bunch of people that were interviewing to be members on our team, and us girls were upstairs, guys were downstairs, and we were just kind of seeing how everybody reacted in the situations of investigating. And the guys, all of a sudden, you know, they radioed us and they said, hey, you guys have to come down here, we're playing tag with something. So based on our conversations, this was a young boy around 12. He said his name was Michael. The boys would, and this is back when K2 meters were really big. And, you know, I've had them work, I've had them not work. But in this area, it was a dead zone. There was no electricity that could have set it off. So it was sitting in the center of the floor. And the boys would ask the spirit, you know, light all the lights up when you're ready to go. And it's tag, you're it. So they would run. As soon as he lit the lights up, they would run out and run around the maze. It was the basement. And once us girls got down there, we were able to actually see what happened in this room. So Sharon has answered the question about pain, like a live feeling, but it's like a higher frequency. And some parents don't vibrate on that level, so it can diminish their energy. So anybody had those questions or of what I meant by being in pain. Anyway, so we were in this central area where the K2 meter was, and the boys had run out of the room. Well, we watched them do this several times and realized that before they got back and the spirit had already come back into the area, or was coming back in, there was a like a screen door that would open. It would literally just open just a smidge, and then the lights would light up. And it did that every single time. They would light it up, run out to play tag, and then before they even got back, the door would move and the lights would light back up. Now, I've told this story before, so if you've listened to my lives, you're going to know about this already. After we, you know, chatted with Michael and did all these things and, you know, played these games, my husband decided to invite him to Waffle House with us. APS, it was our tradition to always go to Waffle House after every investigation. And I immediately was like, don't invite him to go with us. Well, he did. He came home to our house, and for the, see, that was probably around 2010. For the 4 years that we still lived in that house, he would come back every year around October and stay through the holidays. He was very mischievous. He would hide things. He liked to open my basement door constantly. He would constantly mess with me. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom, so one time I was making candles and I was pulling jars out of a box, and I literally had two jars on each hand, and I had my hair up in a messy bun, and I felt like a hand touched the back of my neck, the hairs on the back of my neck, and then it flipped my hair up, and I felt my messy bun hit the top of my head and then land back down. And I immediately was like, okay, yeah, thanks for letting me know you're here, but I don't have time for this, so I'll talk to you later. He didn't bother me anymore that day, but I would sit at the computer on Facebook back then, and you know, I'd be typing away, and all of a sudden the basement door, Roxanne, we haven't experienced him since we moved out of that house like 5 years ago, so it was a while ago. I would sit in the chair and I'd be typing, and the basement door would pop open. And I, of course, being the paranormal investigator, and always like, there's got to be a reason for this. I would jump on the floor, try to see if I could get the door to open. Like maybe the floor shifted and made the plunger pop out, or was there a breeze? So I would shut the door and I would make sure that it was latched tight. And then I'd go sit back down. I'd start typing again. Door would pop open again. And it probably did this for about a half an hour one night, and I was finally like, look, you're getting on my nerves. You need to knock it off. And it stopped. I can't say that it never happened again, but it didn't happen again that night. So this is a warning to all of you. I know paranormal investigation is fun. I know ghost hunting is fun, but there are things that can happen if you don't follow some sort of protocol. Don't invite them to go home with you. Always try to make sure you have that exit, like, oh, you all have to stay here, even if you don't have a prayer that you do or any type of shielding or protection that you do spiritually. At least try to disconnect from the location before you leave so that you're not taking anybody home with you. And don't ever jokingly say it, because it's really not funny. Okay, so if you have any questions about KOA, we haven't been there in many, many years. You can go to their haunted house. I can't even remember what it's called. Somebody could probably tell me. They do have that in October every year. It's a pretty good haunted house. I would definitely say it's worth it. Go for it. The next one is Engine 1, the first Hagerstown hose company, which is here in Hagerstown. Engine 1 is actually located on the Arts and Entertainment District Road. That's Potomac Street in downtown Hagerstown. That area is really like clearing out. They're really trying to, you know, put shops and stuff in there. Engine 1 is an amazing old building. It actually has a ballroom. It has a ticket booth. This is really cool. If you go onto our page and look at our photos, I'm sure there's a whole album full of photos that can show you what it looks like. All that old wood and old staircase to get to it, you know, this is what people did back in the, you know, 1800s, 1900, early 1900s. They would have parties and balls and stuff above the firehouse. You know, this is possibly where they had proms and things like that when they became popular. They also had a movie theater in there on the other side. The building is huge. It may not look like it from the outside, but right now Engine 1 is still there, but I believe they're going to be moving out of that building. That's what I've heard. And on the other side they have like a museum, which is really cool. They have one of their original fire engine, which was horse drawn. Very cool. Just all that stuff is fascinating to me. Engine 1, they brought us in. I had to do a whole board meeting. I had to, you know, do a proposition for them and like what we were doing and what we were about and how long we'd be there. So I had to go to them and present who we were to the board, and they approved us to go in. And I think we investigated Engine 1 3 or 4 times. Probably one of the more haunted places that we've ever been. I don't like to use the word haunted because I mean, what exactly is haunted? There's just a bunch of spirits there. Engine 1 has lots of shadow figures, definitely. This is not really experience. This is more of what we captured, our actual evidence. The first time we set up all of our cameras, and we had one camera in the basement next to the old Aaron's Fox fire engine that they had in the garage. And our camera was pointed down a long hallway. There are no windows in the hallway, and there was no way for light to pass through the doorway that was in the garage all the way down the hallway. It was very dark down there, but we did have a camera there and we had a recorder. Well, midway through the night, we all of a sudden had a mist go from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen for this hallway. And you can see that again on YouTube. At the same time, we also had footsteps, 2 sets of footsteps, one booted and one high-heeled, that walked down this hallway. Now, the camera is on the hallway the whole night, and the only people that were in and out of that building were us. And I'll tell you what, no one wears high heels on a paranormal investigation. If you do, you're crazy. And the booted feet were definitely like more of a dress boot, so it was a harder click to it. That is also on our YouTube channel. It was probably one of our most interesting captures that we've had, especially knowing that in this hallway were one of the entrances to the tunnels that existed underneath of South Potomac Street. And, you know, that kind of leads me into the next location. So I'll talk more about that in a second. EVPs that we got there, a spirit's up near the meeting room that they have, which we only investigated that once. We had investigator Kat. She was talking about something, saying it's really cold up here, and a spirit mimicked her, and you could hear it say it's cold, like it was making fun of her. And at one point, it said her name, it said my name, and I believe those are all also on YouTube. So, you know, it's very interesting to have something say your name on an investigation. Leads me into the next one, the Masonic Temple. These hallways, the hallway in the engine 1 had a tunnel entrance that we think these tunnels led to the Masonic Temple. Now, you know, the Masons were Society of Secrets, secret society. They didn't want people knowing who were actually members of the society. So they would use these means to access the building without people seeing them go into the building. So, you know, the Maryland Theater had one, Engine 1 had one, and I believe there were several others in the area, but most of them had been walled up. I don't know if Maryland Theater still has it or not. I'd say with all of their construction, probably not. But those are really cool. The Masonic Temple, the last time we were there, we had a whole video, and I think if you look through our videos, you'll be able to see them. We have the video, and we even have pictures showing where the entrances came into the temple. And talking about spirits, other groups went into, hey Tara, hey Bob, other groups went into the Masonic Temple, and they had people talk asking for us, so it was very interesting. Apparently they liked us. We were called into the Masonic Temple here in Hagerstown, which is right across the street from Engine 1. They had seen a Knights Templar down in the auditorium. Young girls had seen it, seen him, and they even pointed him out. His name was Albert Davis. He was a chaplain at the temple. On our first investigation, we had lots of interaction with Albert Davis, but I think probably the thing that stuck in our minds the most about the temple was that on our first investigation, before we even got there, the Masons... Hello? The Masons were discussing the fact that we were coming, and that night, the furnace blew up. Very strange. Apparently they had a large piece of wood sitting atop this furnace, and that is what prevented the top of the furnace from blowing off. They said if it had blown off, it probably would have gone up through the floor. So first thing that happened, the furnace blew up. Second thing that happened, the elevator, the morning that we were supposed to go, stopped working. Now, if anybody that is watching this has been to the Masonic Temple, you'll know there's a lot of stairs to that building. So when the elevator doesn't work, we actually have really bad luck with elevators. We did the Dagmar Hotel, which is a very unsavory place, and we had a bunch of people in the elevator and it shut down. So we were stuck in the elevator for like a half an hour. Anyway, so the elevator broke down. I never used it again, but some of our members still used it over the years. So the second thing that happened was the elevator broke down. While we were doing baselines, Kat and I were up in the dressing room, as well as the guys. They were checking out like an attic space in the dressing room that was above a stage in the auditorium. And one of our members had walked down to a smaller area, which led to a elevator that went to a parking garage. And he's like, I smell smoke. Hey, John. And we all immediately were like, what? Smoke? So Kat and I continue to do baselines, and all the boys go rushing out of the room. Yeah, no, Mary, no elevators for us. Boys all go rushing out, and apparently one of the tombstones on the lights, the 24-hour lights that led from this one room into the parking garage elevator, had caught fire, and he smelled it. And immediately they like took all the light bulbs out, and they made sure everything was out. Well, at that point it was like 11 o'clock at night, because it took us a while to make sure everything was settled, and everybody's talking about this, trying to figure things out. So we were like, do we continue with this? I mean, if the spirits were actually creating all of these situations, do we want to see what they could do next? We did continue, and we actually asked a lot of questions that night about who could have done this stuff. Were they linked? Was it a spirit? Or was it all just completely coincidence? I don't really believe in coincidences anymore. So when we asked these questions, one of the spirits that we talked to was the gentleman, Albert Davis. And good old Al, he claimed that he was the caretaker. And yes, he had done these things to try to keep us from continuing what we were doing. Hey, Colin. And Albert in the beginning was very talkative. And I would say to a point, because he was the type of person that he did not like silly conversation. So as soon as you got silly, he'd stop talking to you. We did get a lot of, information about the place. And when I took the conclusion to the client, the Masons, and told them, I said, we encountered the gentleman, Albert Davis. And I explained to them, he seems like he's very, he's definitely very opinionated. He doesn't like certain things. He likes certain things a certain way. So the way I explained it to them, they're like, yeah, that definitely sounds like him. So it was really cool to validate what we got from him using our equipment and from what they knew of this gentleman. And I would say Albert Davis, for several years, communicated with us. That leads me into a different point. All these locations and my paranormal experiences, one of the things that I've noticed with research locations like the Temple, Oddfellows that we go to a lot, the Warehouse, Glade Valley Mill, paranormal activity changes. Not all spirits stay in these locations. You will encounter new ones, whether it's us bringing them in or them moving around. I couldn't tell you. But I definitely feel that a lot of these places, I look at some of these groups and some television shows. They go into one place and they're like, oh, yeah, it's haunted. Oh, no, it's not haunted. Oh, it's residual. Oh, it's intelligent. Not all locations can just do one and done and make a conclusion about it. I feel like hey, Kelly, there's a lot of places that I have been that over the course of 8 years has completely changed. They can get more negative. They can become more intelligent. Hey, Laurie. So just know that just going to a location once does not give you enough information to form a conclusion about whether or not a place is haunted or what kind of haunting it is. You can't fit anything into a box with that limited information. So this kind of brings in like scientific theory and research. You really have to do research on places to be able to form any conclusion like this. I mean, you just can't. I don't know how ghost hunters could like throw out there that something was haunted when if you only did it for a couple days, you really need years of research. I mean, that's why Harry Price did it best. He rented the place and he just spent 24 hours a day, 365, doing research. And that's really what it takes. Oh, you're fine. Hey! Anyways, so the Masonic Temple, that again is a place that we experienced pretty much everything. There weren't too many, hey Donna, I would not say that there were too many negative spirits, but they weren't really friendly either. You find that if there's places that have dark areas that people don't really go to, those are going to house most of your more unfriendly spirits. They're almost like hermits. They just go there because there's nobody bothering them, and that's what they want. So when you go in there and you start bothering them, they're not very friendly about it. There was a gentleman above the stage in the dressing room that he didn't like guys, and he would always try to make him seem like he was a demon, but he wasn't. He was just a nasty old man. He was kind of dirty. He definitely, the sex talk for him kind of really generated a response, especially when women were talking to him. Men, he just was kind of argumentative. So that was an area. Hey, Billy. Jeremy didn't like the dressing room area because this guy didn't really like Jeremy. let's see. When we first started investigating there, one of my favorite things to do was to sit in what they call the small-atorium. It was just like a little bar area with a bunch of tables in it. And you could sit there and look back a hallway. And they actually had a, because there was a post office in this portion of the temple, they had an old safe in it. So if you sat and looked back that hallway, you could see this shadow figure. And this thing had to have been like 7 feet tall. It was huge. And it would like come out and walk back and forth at the end of this hallway. And over the years, we stopped seeing it. So that's another thing, you know, we may have experienced it in the first couple of years that we were there, but we never really saw it towards the end. We captured a lot of young girls on the spirit box. They never really said anything conclusively, but it was all very strange how you would constantly hear little girls talking. The Blue Lodge, which was where the Masons had their specific rituals, women most times didn't feel comfortable, probably because they weren't allowed to be there. So I always noticed that if I walked the hallway right outside where the Blue Lodge was, I just felt like I was being watched and just not welcome. And that was on the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor, which was where the Eastern Stars were, or the Knights Templar, it was a big purple room, so we called it the purple room. That was probably one of the most active areas of the building, other than the dressing room and the basement. And I mean, we had all kinds of stuff happen there. I know Ken, who's not on here any longer, and Jeremy, and a couple of Portal Paranormal Society's members were up in the Purple Lodge, and they were just doing their regular questions, having a session, and the door to the lodge was closed. So all of a sudden, they get 3 knocks, and the door clicks open. So they immediately, jump up and try to figure out what's happening, what's going on. And, we logged it, just something that happened, our personal experience. They didn't have any video or anything of it. So when we asked them, the Masons, later on, they did kind of lead us to believe that part of their ritual to access the room, seal the room, unseal the room, was 3 knocks. So it's very interesting to have 3 knocks and the door open. And it gave us validation of why it would have even happened. Trying to think. Oh, one thing that's not really paranormal, but it was really cool. On one of our ghost hunts that we had there, we have this. Give me a second and I'll get it. We have this box. This is an EM pump, okay? A very large EM pump. It's, say, about 8-inch square. And we had it in the basement, which, so sub-basement, basement, 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. We had it in the basement, so it wasn't all the way down. And we had it on to pulse all night, and it would come on, set out an EM pulse. And I would say it was about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. All of a sudden, somebody decided to pull out a EMF detector and see what we were at in the building. It didn't seem to increase activity. It was very active that night, but it didn't seem to make it any more so or decrease it in any way. They were able to measure, that was weird. They were able to measure an EMF field that was almost like a fog, about 3 feet off the floor. It went up the staircase all the way up to the 3rd floor. And the 3rd floor, 3 feet off the floor, all the way from front to back on the 3rd floor, had this cloud of EM. It's just amazing. Everybody, of course, then, they're all like surging up there, trying to see what, oh, wow, this is so incredible. To me, this thing gives me a headache. As soon as it's turned on, it tastes like copper pennies, and I just feel frazzled. So we don't really use it anymore. Definitely don't even know if it causes cancer, so probably not the greatest piece of equipment, but it's still interesting. We have an electrician make it, one of our original members, Ryan. So anyways, if you ever want to see it work, you have to come to one of our events. Anyways, the Masonic Temple. Again, we had lots of experiences there. Through the years, we had strange lights in the auditorium. I don't even know how many different times we didn't try to figure out where these lights came from. There were like 2 sets of windows that were in a little hallway, breezeway area that went to the basement. And there's no way those lights had caused this, but we had a camera in the small auditorium going towards the auditorium doors, and you can see these strange lights appear in the windows. And there wasn't anybody on the other side. There's Louie. Say hi, Louie. Anyways, you can see that on YouTube as well. We do have that. Like, if you go through our videos, you'll be able to easily find the ones that are actually videos or just videos that have audio on them. If you have any questions about the Masonic Temple, go ahead and post it up. Hey, Josh. Josh actually went to the Masonic Temple. I think we had a gathering there at one point in time. The Masonic Temple is no longer a Masonic Temple. It was sold to Bowman Development, and last I heard, it was going to be used as offices. It's very sad to me because it was an incredible place, and the Masons built it for their purposes, so it just makes me sad to see something like that, history-wise, just disappear. And development companies don't care about history. Okay, moving on to the next one, the Glade Valley Mill. The Glade Valley Mill is kind of one of the places, now my brother-in-law owns it, so Jeremy's brother owns this building, and he has his woodworking shop out of it. And it's very cool in this building because it still has a lot of the old structures from the milling. So it was a feed mill when it closed, but it was a flour mill at one point in time. It's very stinky and very dusty, but it's spooky. I'll give it that. It's very spooky. The second floor is probably one of the most active areas. But one investigation we did with the entire team, we'd taken the entire team is too much on in this place. Even though it looks big, it's kind of like the grain bins take up a lot of the building, so it doesn't really, it's like you can't use all of it. You can't walk all over all of it. You definitely don't want to go in the grain bins because you may not ever get back out. I don't know how good the ladders are. Right, Roxanne? Spirits may not be there. So the mill, to me right now, is in its infancy. I like to do research. I like to go to a location repeatedly and see how things change. Try to keep protocols very similar. I know the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But to me, trying to keep a specific protocol allows for you to not have that as a variable in your results. So keeping a good basic foundation of how you investigate and the stuff that you actually gather could really give you a great conclusion. Now, Oddfellows is a great example of that, but the mill is still kind of new, and I feel like the last time we investigated, we probably had some of the best activity. I mean, we heard things moving around above us, and we hadn't really had that happen before. And it was just 4 of us. It was me, Jeremy, Chris, Christopher, and we were all out investigating together. So it was really cool to have this stuff happen. And again, we don't really use the flashlight anymore, so anybody who's been with us, this instance, we've been using motion sensors, just the ones you get from Harbor Freight, and they're awesome because we had this thing turned and it would go on every once in a while, and we kept trying to figure out, is it something we're doing? Is it dust? Is it this? Is it that? Nothing we could do could get it to come on, and it would come on every once in a while. We would even ask it to turn it on. So definitely we're going to be incorporating that a lot more. But the mill, we've seen these strange shadow figures. I keep getting Snapchats, I'm sorry. If you're on one floor, you can see them a lot of times standing above you on the next floor. There's a lot of stairs in this building. Sharon will tell you that. Lots of stairs. Lots of shadow figures. We've had an instance where Jeremy and I went upstairs because we kept hearing this weird sound, and we get all the way to the 4th floor, and we go to, you know, kind of get to the top of the stairs and move around, because it's like the stairs come up and then you have to kind of spin around to get up onto the floor. We saw something move off, and not only that, we heard it. It just like this loud bang, and then it shot off across the 4th floor. So the whole team came up, and everybody got something big to kind of, you know, knock around to see if maybe it was an animal. When we told Jason, Jeremy's brother, you know, like, hey, do you have anything in here? Have you noticed anything? He's like, no, you know, I've sealed up everything. There's no way any animals could get in. So we weren't quite certain what it was. And we didn't capture it on camera. So, but we did see it with our eyes, and we heard it, and we did capture it on audio. It's hard to hear because we kind of, you know, exclaimed. How about a trail cam pointed? That's a good idea, Josh. That's a good idea. You know, trail cams are a little pricey, so it might be something definitely fundraise for. So yeah, that would be a good idea. Very good idea. I'm going to write that down. So again, the Glade Valley Mill, we've had EVPs. We've had conversations with a gentleman that spends a lot of time on the 2nd floor. And that was all spirit box. But it's one place that I really feel like, you know, it's in Woodsboro. I don't know if I said that. The Glade Valley Mill is in Woodsboro, Maryland. It was built in like the 1870s, so it's a really old building, and it was actually moved from its original spot to where it's at now, which to me is incredible. How do they do this stuff, especially back then? How do they move buildings? It's kind of like watching stuff about the pyramids. How in the world did they do that? Sorry, I keep getting notifications on my phone, so you're going to hear that over time. I'm going to move on to the next location. If you have questions about the Glade Valley Mill, go ahead and post them. I will try to answer. Even if I don't answer them right now, I'm going to try to go through this and answer things later. If you have questions about anything else, it doesn't have to be about my experiences or these locations. If you have any questions you want to ask about anything, I'll try to answer them. One of the more interesting places that we've been, Paxton Manor. We only went once. Well, I've been there twice, but I only actually investigated once. The manor itself, the Karlheim, the mansion, wasn't really active for us. It was very cool to see the original architecture. Now, as I understand it, the 1st floor is no longer the original, what it used to be. The 1st floor is now part of the haunted house. If you know Paxton Manor, it's also Shocktober, so they have a haunted house attraction there in October. Now I think Mid-Atlantic Paranormal Investigations does ghost hunts, like public ghost hunts there, but again, we haven't been back. We did it before they had actual active ghost hunts there. When we investigated, we didn't have, like I said, a lot of stuff happened in the mansion. We had all of our activity happen in the daycare building, which was out back, and it was considered their fun house, part of the attraction for the haunted house. And as I understand it, they don't even allow people to investigate that building anymore. It's used as an office. We had lots of sounds in there, footsteps. We had spirit box conversation. Back then we were using other items, K2 meters and things like that. I hardly ever... It's thundering again. Anyways, K2 meters, but the best thing, and probably the best EVP we've ever gotten, Shocktober has it on their website. Every time it thunders, she comes in here. We were in the daycare building, and it was me, Christian, and another investigator, and we were asking just normal EVP questions, and I believe I asked, do you have a message? And you hear a male voice say, help me. Very clear as day, and it wasn't fast, it was very slow. Help me. That is definitely the best EVP we've gotten. And it's very sad that, you know, our time was up there, we couldn't really do anything, and he never said anything else. But That's on YouTube, and like I said, the Shocktober Haunted House, they have it up on their website. But if you have questions about Paxton Manor, feel free to ask. That place had the coolest history of any place ever. Back then, we had the ultimate historical research team. We had a group of us girls that we would be up till 3 a.m. Doing research on places, and we were at a loss trying to find some stuff on this place because it's really hard for finding stuff in other states. Maryland is the greatest if you want to do deed research. It's all free, and it's not easy to find it, but it's not as hard as some of these other places. Like Pennsylvania, you're going to pay a lot of money to find deed information. But we were kind of at a loss. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I found a divorce deposition of the Paxton's daughters, and it read like a really bad romance novel. So to me, that's kind of one of the times that it hit me that I absolutely love the research portion. I don't have time to do it a lot, but it's very cool to see all this stuff that has happened. And, you know, back then, families like that, and affluent families, didn't share that kind of dirty laundry with people. So to find it was very interesting. And I don't know if the people that run Paxton know about all that, but if they were ever interested, I'm sure we could help them out. Okay, so if you ever have a location that you've heard me talk about that you want, you're interested in, feel free to ask. I talk about Oddfellows a lot, so I'm going to kind of wait. I don't even know how long have I been on here. 8:06. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, but I didn't write this one down in my notes, but one of the locations that we did, I can't give you the name of the place. I can't tell you where it's at. It's local, and it was a business, and they had called us in because they had things go missing, and we actually found some of the items that were missing. No, it's not in Gettysburg. It's here in Maryland. Hey, Jolie. We went into this place, and you know how a lot of places in basements, like if people have fixed up basements, there's always that one area in older buildings that kind of like has a half wall. So where the rubblestone foundation, there's a half wall, and it kind of has a bit of a ledge to it. Well, this location actually had walls that you couldn't see that half wall. It was behind a wall. So there was an access to it. And of course, Jeremy, anybody knows Jeremy has to go in all the spaces like this. He's got to go in any place that nobody has been to in many, many years. So he goes in this, and I mean, it's like full of cobwebs and just lots of debris and stuff. So he goes back there, and he's climbing and checking things out, and he finds some items that these people had lost. How in the world they got there, we don't know. So it was really cool to help them out in that instance. I mean, I don't think the stuff wasn't valuable or anything. You're going to be able to find some of our stuff that we had from that location on YouTube. It was said in an interview that in this location, now some of this stuff is actually a little revealing because if you Google it, you'll probably find it. There were a large amount of kids that died from some sort of chronic illness. I have to do that. Oh, crawl into spaces like that. Oh my God. No thanks, spiders. So, we supposedly found out that a bunch of kids were buried in this area that was next to this building. And back when they put a parking lot over it, they weren't required to actually move the graves. They only had to remove the headstones. So that we don't know if this is true. We don't have documentation of this. This is all hearsay, interview, information that was given to us. They claim that the bodies are still underneath of this parking lot. And the gravestones were actually put in the building that we investigated. Now, a lot of our EVPs that we got were of children. We had, oh gosh, I think one of them said they're watching us, and that's on YouTube. That one was very creepy. I know when I did a radio show back years ago on 106.9, that was one of their favorites, like to hear that, because it You know, it's kind of chilling to hear a child say these things. And I don't know if anybody else has had these experiences. Now, I'm not an orb lover. Most orbs are dust, but we had these strange light anomalies that we kept seeing. Now, feel free to say yes if you've had these, love, like, whatever. We would see these strange pinpoints of light. And so it wasn't like balls of light. They were like green, blue, and red pinpoints of light. And I don't mean laser pointers. And we all kept seeing them, but none of us were saying this to each other. And then finally, Jeremy's like, is anybody else seeing these weird points of light in this room? So that night was very strange. We did capture something that almost looked like a red point of light in a video. What it is, I don't know. But it was a very strange experience. So, hey, Sarah, if you've ever had experiences like that, I'd love to hear about it. We periodically saw them at the Masonic Temple and in other areas. And it wasn't just us. It was people like, you know, if we'd have a ghost hunt, people would say, are you seeing these weird lights? So, you know, it kind of validated other people having this experience. But that was a really cool place. The history was interesting. We did have some amazing evidence. And she actually, the lady that called us in, she still uses the same facility. She's still there. And I've asked her, hey, would you allow us to come back? And she said, well, I need to ask the spirits whether or not that's okay, because apparently they get riled up very easily. But Desiree, talking about going into dark spots like that, okay, here's a great one for you. So I've told this one before, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. We were at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and I'm telling you, in West Virginia, not only are their bats big, but their spiders are big too. We were in Lily's room having a session, and all of a sudden I see something skittering across the floor. No, that was not a mouse. It was a house centipede. You know, one of those giant things that has like thousands of legs, and it looks like a feather, honestly. Growing up, we always had those in my house. Like, you pick up a box and there'd be one on it, and then of course you throw the box and you freaked out, and then you never know where it went. Those are the things that you can chop in half and both halves go running in the opposite direction. Anyways, this thing comes scooting across the floor, and Ken Sminsky with Portal was there, and he immediately tells this thing, oh, Becky wants to see you, go over to her. I swear to God, it's like that thing knew. I had my ghost hunt bag next to me on the floor, and this thing comes shooting towards me. I scream, put my legs up, put my bag in the windowsill, because the windowsill is at Trans-Allegheny are huge, and he is just like in tears laughing at me. And I'm like, oh my God, you just go away. Well, not only did that thing come towards me, it kept going, shot up the wall towards my bag. So then I had to put my bag in my lap, and I was finally like, you know what? I'm not afraid of ghosts, but we're getting the heck out of here. I don't want that thing going home with me. Anyways, spiders are scary. So, especially if you ever go to any of these lock houses, on the C&O Canal. I mean, we've done a bunch of them. They have spiders. Now, I know one of our former members, his new team, they just went, and there was a snake on top of the doorway in the basement. No thanks. That's where I draw the line. Sorry. Roxanne has said something. Not so much seen, but I had done a public investigation at Poorhouse Farm in Martinsburg and felt very dizzy. The group took a picture, and there was a huge orb completely blocking out my head. I had to put my arms out to keep from falling over. Oh, that's interesting, Roxanne. Do you still have that picture? You have to show it to me. Sorry, I'm getting up in your face. Sarah Shank. There is an old house near me that's being torn down soon that is believed to be haunted. Maybe you could check it out. I guess we have to find out who owns it, I guess. I'm always up for new places. Right now, I have about 10 places that I'm emailing to try to get into. It smells like skunk here right now. Ick. But, you know, I'm always up for new places, and I think we have a couple openings for the rest of this year. You know, we're going to Trans-Allegheny. We're going back to the John Brown Chitlin Circuit in June. We're going to the warehouse in June. And then I think July we're doing the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. And other than that, we don't have anything scheduled. I know I'm going to be doing an investigation with another team, hopefully in September, to a place that I've never been before. I'm excited. And okay, awesome, Sarah. That'd be great. Just private message me. Desiree, snakes are okay. Spiders, no. Snakes, nope. Nope. Mm-mm. I don't want any of that. None of it. And you know what? Like bats. Hey, Donna. We were at Trans-Allegheny at one point in time. Actually, no, the West Virginia Penitentiary story is even better. We had one that kept flying around our heads at the penitentiary. And Jeremy ends up like swatting it with his hat. This daggone thing swoops down and lands on the floor. So Jeremy nudges it with his foot, and me and this other guy are standing right in the firing zone. This thing flies up and like, yes, Desiree. I told Ed yes. Oh my God, 100%. I'd love to go with you guys. Yeah, this thing just about took our heads off. And those bats in West Virginia are no joke. No joke. But at Trans-Allegheny, we actually, me, Ken, and another investigator, Shannon, we were in this, like the doctor's area that they had just remodeled. And we're all sitting in chairs doing a session. All of a sudden, this bat comes in. And it's just flying around the room in a circle. And they're, like, slowly, like, going down in their chairs until, like, literally all I can see is their heads where their butts should be. It was the funniest thing ever. I said, oh my gosh, they're not going to hurt you. Just don't turn your flashlights on. Oh, Julie, you live near that, don't you? I'd love to. I'd love to go to Point Lookout. Love to. But, yep. You guys have any questions? Next week, I'm going to do techniques. Paranormal investigation techniques. I'm probably going to need a whole week to prepare for that because there's so many things that you can do on investigations to get responses. But Stacy Daly, who I'm friends with, had asked me about that, wants to know more. And it'd be great, like, if other people who join in, bring your techniques. Go ahead and post about it, discuss it, and debate it. What's that, down at Point Lookout? That would be so exciting. Oh my gosh. So we're going to do investigation techniques. Might include some equipment and some other things. You know, we've done all kinds of things through the years. I'll be honest, I'm kind of old-fashioned. To me, just go and sit in a room. I mean, some of the EVPs that you get, and you really miss a lot if you're so focused on equipment that you don't experience things, you know, that are actually happening around you. So, I think equipment can really kind of get in the way of what you're trying to have experience. Anyways, like I said, any questions? Gotta run, keep up the fight. Oh, will do, Josh, will do. You gotta come with us sometime, man, you know? But anyways, it was great talking to you guys, and I'm glad to be back doing these lives. I get nervous right at first, and then I just jump right into it. But anyways, I'm Rebecca Boyer. I'm the co-founder of Antietam Paranormal Society, and it's been great seeing, and that's Anna. She finally popped in. Oh, and it's lightning outside. I will be talking to you guys soon, and I hope you tune in next week. If you have any ideas or topic ideas, just throw them up in the comments or even private message me them. That'd be great. And I'll see everybody later. Bye.